Hello and welcome to the 8th episode of our Trainz route building tutorial series. In this series I'm using TRS-19, but most things also apply to other Trainz versions. In this video I'm covering asset palettes. Asset palettes are kind of similar to choosing a palette of colors when painting a painting, only instead of choosing complementary pigments, you're choosing complementary assets. So let's begin by loading our route. The first asset I choose, which then impacts the choice of all the other assets, is the track, because the color of the ballast and what kind of ties or sleepers are used makes a very big difference. So now that I've found a track asset that kind of meets what I pictured, I'm going to place a length of track around which to build an example of the kind of scenery that I'm picturing for this route. The next step is usually to make the terrain look kind of similar to the type of landscape I want to make. So for example, if this route were set in the Australian outback, then I would probably keep things quite flat. However, if it's set in the Alps or Rocky Mountains, then it's probably going to be more hilly. So I'll just add some basic hills. Okay, now that I have some hills, the next step is to choose terrain textures that are going to be used throughout the route. So I usually choose some grass textures, ballast for underneath the tracks, a cliff texture, and a sort of forest or undergrowth texture. So let's do that. Now that I have the basic terrain textures that I want, which all fit with the track I chose, the next step is to choose the common scenery items. So that's your grass splines and trees and shrubs and that sort of thing. So let's do that. Okay, so now that we have some of the common scenery assets, we can start to get a sense for what this route would feel like if it were actually to be made into a full route using this palette. Other things to consider including in your palette are trackside objects, so what kind of signals you'll be using and what junction levers or levers, and also other objects or splines like roads or buildings. So for example, I could quite easily see a route using this asset palette using mainly wooden houses. So I'm thinking the kind of houses that you might find in Georgia or Florida. But at the same time, I could also see a route using this asset palette working quite well with European houses. So I'm thinking kind of German, Austrian type houses. Another thing to think about when you're making a palette is obviously what kind of trains you want to run on the route, as this does have quite a big impact on the feel of the route. Now, if I were to actually make a route based on this palette, I would just add baseboards over here and on the other side as well, and just use this palette as part of the route. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful.